So I figured we might as well do chapter 7 right now too. And it doesn't look like it's too long, so we'll try to burn through it. So in the previous chapter, we learned how to share the road safely with other road users. This chapter gives strategies that you can use to handle situations that have a negative influence on you and your driving. So, fitness to drive. You in the driver's seat. You wake up with a cold, you feel awful, but you have to go to work. You take some cold medication before getting in your car. As you're driving, you notice that you feel lightheaded and tired. Turning right on the first intersection, you narrowly miss a cyclist. What should you do? So this is a hard situation just because obviously you're wanting to go to work. However, cold medication usually has a warning that says you shouldn't drive after taking it just because it can make you feel sedated. Typically, if you're feeling this crappy and you're still going to work, just go home and call in sick. As we've all learned through COVID, just call in sick. And I believe now BC is giving the 5 days. I think that's mandatory, 5 sick days for businesses to give you, just to avoid these situations where you're not fit to drive, not fit to work, and you have that chance of infecting or possibly making someone else's day bad as well. So to be in control of driving, you need to be able to rely on the information that your eyes and ears pick up. You need to be healthy, rested, and focused to be a safe driver. So seeing and hearing, experts estimate that about 80% of all driving information comes to drivers through their eyes. You need to take a vision screening test before you're licensed to drive, and your sense of hearing also helps you gather information about the driving scene. Listen for important warning signs such as horns, sirens, train whistles, and unusual sounds in your engine. When you're taking your L test, I believe they also test your vision and your hearing, just because this is a big part of being observant, and also your peripheral vision is very important when you're driving as well. So strategies to seeing and hearing effectively. To see and hear effectively when driving, you want to use your glasses or contact lens if you need them. You want to scan left to right as you drive. You want to repair or replace noisy engine mufflers. Back in the day when I was first driving, it used to be all the rage to have a really noisy muffler or not to have one at all. I believe nowadays it's not the rage, so that definitely makes it easier to hear. Also, as an end driver, you don't want to play your stereo too loudly just because you are trying to learn everything still. And that can be quite distracting. You might miss emergency vehicles or if someone honks at you for some reason. And you also don't want to use your cell phone or headphones when driving. Those are against the law and you will be fined for those. So assessing your health. Even a mild illness like a cold or flu can affect your alertness. Over-the-counter medicines may make you drowsy and slow your reaction time. Like I said, usually they have this warning that says may cause drowsiness, and that's just for your own safety when you're driving or if you work at a work where you operate heavy machinery. So you want to read labels carefully before taking medication, especially if you're planning to drive. If you have a health condition that you think may impair your ability to drive, make sure that you check with your doctor or pharmacist before getting behind the wheel. Typically, doctors or pharmacists will warn you as well, but just as a person taking medication, you want to be aware and read about the different side effects as well. So strategies to do if you're not feeling well. Take a bus or get a friend to drive you. We do have Uber nowadays as well, or there's taxis. We want to read the labels carefully if you're taking any medication, and don't drive if the label says that the drug may cause drowsiness or dizziness. Staying awake. Being tired is one of the leading causes of crashes. Fatigue affects all stages of the see, think, do strategy. It can cause you to scan inaccurately and slow your thinking and lengthen your reaction time. As a new driver, I could not understand how people could possibly fall asleep while driving. It happens, and it happens so quickly you don't even notice. You feel really tired and all of a sudden your eyelids drop and you kind of swerve and you're like, oh crap. So definitely don't want to be driving when you're in that stage. Super dangerous for yourself and others. So some strategies to stay awake they've given us here. Start out well rested, so obviously try to get a good sleep, especially if you're going for a long journey. You want to take breaks, walk around, get some exercise, stop and eat, but avoid heavy meals because they may make you feel sleepier. You want to keep the heat at a level that's moderate. Again, if your heat is like turned up and it's warm and you're feeling cozy, that's going to make you more likely to fall asleep as well. So if you are feeling quite tired, you want to keep your window open for fresh air. Sometimes I will turn up my music as well. So here it says sing or talk to keep yourself paying attention. So you can always call a friend just to keep yourself awake as well. Pull over at rest stops, take a nap, but be sure to lock your doors. And also just don't drive too far at one time. If you're making a long trip, be especially careful on the second day because this is when you're most likely to be tired. Just this driving tip here, you can be unaware of your surroundings when you drive for a long time on a highway or a freeway that doesn't change much. This is called highway hypnosis. So sometimes I'll zone out when I'm driving on the highway, so it does happen. You just want to make sure that you are like a good driver before this starts to happen because that's when you could come into some trouble. Obviously, you want to prevent this from happening, but you can't always do that. Some areas have installed a rumble strip or rough patches to warn drivers if they start to drift into the other lane. So on the highway, you'll see those white lines that can sometimes have like little pieces knocked out, or they'll have like little tabs on them. And that's just so that when you do hit those lanes, say if you were to fall asleep, it's louder. So it'll go like, or like you'll hear the noise. You can always try it just for fun to see what it's like. But yeah, that's just to keep people awake if they do kind of zone out there. So keeping focused. When you are driving, your mind and your senses should be focused only on driving. Distractions can affect your hazard perception and your reaction time. So we want to leave our phone alone. To help us concentrate on driving, we want to leave our phone while driving. Turn it off or put it somewhere where it won't distract you. So yeah, putting your purse on the floor, wherever, so that you're not going to be looking at it when you're, getting a text and you're tempted to check it out. You can also put like different alerts on your phone that will say I'm driving or leave me alone for a second or whatever. So if people were trying to get a hold of you and it was urgent, that's another option. So no call or text is so important, it's worth risking your life. So let calls go to voicemail and ignore your text messages while driving. If you really want to check your phone, pull over and stop your car only if you need to use your cell phone or another electronic device. Pull over and look at whatever is distracting you. Check your map, figure out the best route, look for the music you want to play, send a text message, etc. Or if you do have another person in the car, you can assign a designated texter. Ask your passengers to make or receive calls and texts for you. Make a text stop at highway rest stops, some of which now provide free Wi-Fi. So yeah, in BC, they've started putting Wi-Fi at the rural stops so that you're able to still send those text messages. Crash fact. Studies show that drivers who are talking on the phone lose about 50% of what's going around them visually. When you're stopped in an intersection or slowing in traffic, you are still driving. So, cell phones, you're definitely going to get a ticket if someone sees you holding your cell phone or a policeman sees you holding a cell phone. So, all drivers in BC, including those GLP, are prohibited by law from using handheld electric devices while driving. You may not operate or view handheld cell phones or other electronic communication devices. You may not send or read emails or texts. You may not operate or hold handheld music or portable gaming devices, or manually program or adjust GPS systems when driving. The law applies whenever you are in control of the vehicle, even when you are stopped at a red light or bumper-to-bumper traffic. So sometimes you'll see cops walking in between cars at stoplights, checking to see if people are on their phone while they're waiting for the light to turn green. It's kind of picky on what you can touch in your car. I think you're only allowed 1 or 2 touches for something like a GPS or a radio. So just being aware that you're setting up your car before you're heading out. So setting up that GPS, checking your text messages, putting on your music, and then leaving your driveway. So GLP drivers are also restricted from operating hands-free electronic devices when driving, except for calling 911 to report an emergency. The greater restrictions help GLP drivers stay focused on the road while building driving experience. This means no use of personal electronic devices at any time, including hands-free phone, except for calling 911 to report an emergency. GLP drivers who receive one ticket will have their driving record reviewed and may face driving prohibitions. If you need to make or receive a hands-free call, it is safer to pull over to the side of the road when it is safe to do so. So yeah, I guess as an L driver, you're not even allowed that 1 or 2 touch. So just setting that up before you head out and making sure that you aren't getting any tickets, because like it says, any tickets on your L record or your N record can keep you from getting your license. It's just better to always be on the safe side. Dangerous emotions. You in the driver's seat. You're on your way to Vancouver Island hoping to catch the 3 p.m. ferry. The traffic is heavy, so your progress is slow. As you approach a green light, the car in front slows down. The driver seems to be deciding whether to make a turn. You mumble under your breath in frustration. Finally, the car moves, but the light turns yellow, so now you have to stop and wait. You feel a surge of anger. A driver like that shouldn't be on the road slowing up the traffic, and now you just know you're going to miss your ferry. We all have changing emotional states. Emotions are powerful forces that can interrupt the concentration you need for driving. When you're feeling very angry, anxious, sad, or upset, you miss important information and your thinking becomes unclear. Your safety and the safety of others is dangerous. Sometimes you may become angry or impatient because of the driving environment. Crowded traffic conditions and high-speed freeway driving often causes stress. Being slowed down by other traffic when you're in a hurry produces tension. Drivers who are angry or stressed are less tolerant of the mistakes that other road users make. Whatever the cause of emotion, it is important to look at your emotional fitness to drive. Sometimes it's best to stay out of the driver's seat. So yeah, if you're already really upset or stressed about something that's happening in your life, or perhaps very tired, just get a friend to drive or a partner, or just take the bus or an Uber, because it doesn't seem like a big thing. You're like, okay, I'm upset, whatever, I can still drive. But like this is saying, it actually does make quite a difference on your ability to drive, just because you're so busy thinking about what you've already been thinking about that you might miss signs or, just drive unsafer because you're upset about something else. So it's just best to try to manage that situation before it becomes a bigger problem. So here are some things that you can do to stay calm when driving. You want to keep learning, analyze stressful driving situations that you have found yourself in, and figure out what you can do next time to be calmer and safer. Plan ahead. Choose a route that avoids crowded traffic so that you can concentrate better. Allow yourself plenty of time. Being in a hurry can cause you to become angry or frustrated. Realize that if you leave late, you're going to arrive late. So again, if you're going more than half an hour away from your house, just check that route. And if it is busy, leave early. Or if you think it will be busy, leave early. Or if you think that you're going to be late, another thing that relieves a lot of pressure is just call wherever you're headed, right? And let them know, okay, I'm going to be 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late. And now you don't need to stress, and you can just take that extra 10 or 15 minutes that you need to get there safely. You also want to think of your safety and the safety of others. This can help calm yourself down. So like I said, yes, it's stressful because I'm running late at this moment, but at the same time, if I get into an accident right now, that's going to make my life slower. I'm going to have to, depending on what happened, I'm going to have to go to the hospital or be a witness or something like that. It's just going to slow your day down additionally. So just take your time. Be patient, extra courteous. Remember that all drivers make mistakes. Take a couple of moments to calm yourself down. Leave your problems behind before you start to drive. And if you can't focus, don't get behind the wheel. Be honest to yourself. Admitting to yourself exactly how you can feel can also help calm you down. Open the windows, let some fresh air in, take a few breaths, listen to the radio or a relaxing CD. Loosen your grip on the steering wheel, and this will help ease your arm and neck muscles or reduce the chance of you getting a headache. Impairment. So throughout BC, an average of 78 people each year are killed in crashes involving impaired driving. So if you're in the driver's seat, you're going home from a party with your friend, it's pretty late and you're anxious to get to bed. It's been a long day, your friend runs a yellow light, just catching the beginning of a red. You notice that he's staring straight ahead, his eyes not moving. The car starts to weave and then lurches to one side and he brakes hard. Hey, what are you doing, you ask? It's okay, I thought I was at an intersection. A little early, huh? He laughs. What should you do? So obviously your friend is impaired and you should not be allowing him to continue driving because this is quite a dangerous situation. So some facts about alcohol. Here are some ways that alcohol can interfere with seeing, thinking, and doing. In Chapter 9, Your License, we talk about some of the fines and charges for impaired driving. So this is just going to be a quick overview, it looks like. So C, driver symptoms. We have a tendency to stare. Your eyes will lose your reflex abilities. You'll have reduced coordination of images, reduced depth perception, reduced peripheral vision. So we're really not in our best state when we are impaired. So effects that on the driver, you cannot make eyes take in information quickly enough. You can be blinded by the glare. You can see double. You can't judge distance or speed of other vehicles, and you may not see hazards approaching from the side. So I guess it just goes with each one. So with the thinking, we'll read it with this one. So your reasoning becomes unclear. You have reduced concentration, and your emotional state becomes unstable. But you think your mental ability is sharp. However, you can't make sound driving decisions. So do. You have reduced muscular control, which means that you cannot coordinate steering and braking. You have increased impulsiveness. So like where you're like, oh, I can make that light or I can make that stop, but it's not actually something that you can do. So you're going to take greater risks by speeding or by taking chances that you shouldn't be taking. You're going to have reduced coordination, which means that you're going to oversteer or brake late or not at all. And you're going to have a slow reaction time, which means that you cannot make your turns accurately and you cannot react to emergencies quickly. So pretty much it affects everything that you need while driving. However, you don't feel like it's going to affect everything that you're doing when you're driving. Again, your safety and others. At the end of the day, take a taxi, take an Uber, call your mom, whatever you want to do. It's not worth the risk. So alcohol myths. Alcohol won't affect me too much if I drink coffee, have something to eat, or take a cold shower. So an alcohol fact. The only time that you can sober up or lower your blood alcohol content, contrary to popular belief, food, coffee, cold showers, or exercise do not speed up the elimination of alcohol from your system. Transport Canada states that if you have a BAC of 0.8, it takes about 6 hours for your body to completely process the alcohol and return to a BAC of 0. So as a learner and a new driver, you can have 0 alcohol in your system or you will be getting a fine. However, as a full driver, I believe that the legal limit is the 0.8. However, if you are hitting this limit, you can still get a ticket. So it's better just to, take a taxi, Uber, or call your mom. Beer doesn't affect driving as much as other alcoholic drinks do. Usually a lie, a glass of beer contains the same amount of alcohol as a glass of wine or an average cocktail. In some cases, even small amounts of alcohol can cause a driver to be impaired. That's why you will notice that some people will have one drink and feel tipsy, whereas others will have one drink and feel nothing. So if you're planning to drink, decide ahead of time how you will get home safely. So carpooling is always a great option as well. So crash fact. Is it worth it to drink and drive? You or your passengers could be injured or killed in a crash. You may spend time in jail. You could lose your license. You may have to pay stiff fines. Your insurance may not pay for any injuries or damage that you cause. So at the end of the day, really not worth it. Better just to come up with an alternative strategy. So strategies protecting yourself from impaired drivers. To get home safely, we want to learn about the effects of drugs and alcohol. Accurate information allows you to make informed decisions. Refuse to ride in with drivers that may be impaired. Ask to be let out of the car if necessary. I have done this in the past where I was driving with someone and they were quite unsafe, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get at the gas station and get some stuff. My partner will pick me up here. I mean, you can feel bad for doing that, but at the same time, that is their responsibility to be aware that they should not be drinking and driving, and your responsibility not to be encouraging that, just because it is very unsafe. You want to take a stand. Don't let someone who may be impaired drive. So just taking away their keys, if you want to be a little bit more stealthy about it, you can just hide their keys and tell them that you can't find them anywhere, and then suggest taking a taxi or Uber together, right? You can also choose a designated driver before going out, keep money aside for a bus or a taxi, call a friend, or call mom. Facts about drugs. Drugs and driving. Drugs and medication can impair driving. If you are taking medication or drugs, you need to know how they can affect your ability to drive safely. Drugs affect different people differently. If there's any doubt about safety, leave the driving to someone else. Driving tip. If you are feeling impaired after taking a drug or medication, do not drive. Let someone else do the driving until the effect has worn off. Over-the-counter medications for allergies, colds, coughs, and nausea can include drowsiness or inattentiveness. Prescriptions, including sedatives, tranquilizers, or painkillers, and even some antidepressants, can affect alertness, concentration, and reaction time. These effects can continue for many hours after the medication is taken. If your doctor or pharmacist cautions you that a medication is likely to interfere with driving safety, pay attention. If you're feeling impaired after taking medication, don't drive. Let someone else drive until the effect has worn off. We're always wanting to read the label and of any medication you are taking to see if it can affect your driving. If you are taking more than one medication, ask your doctor or pharmacist about their combined effects on driving. Illegal drugs. Recreational street drugs such as speed, heroin, cocaine have a wide variety of effects, including those noted under the medications on the previous page, as well as hallucinations, altered perception, feelings of invincibility. So basically you think that nothing's going to happen, or a lack of judgment. Crash fact. A driver who combines alcohol and drugs is 9 times more likely to have a crash than a sober driver. Cannabis. So cannabis has recently been made legal here in Canada. So we want to be aware that it can cause drivers to have difficulty following the movement of vehicles or pedestrians accurately. You may misunderstand visual cues from a driving environment, and it may delay responses, especially in emergency situations. Many drugs will greatly increase the impairment when combined with even small amounts of alcohol. So definitely we don't want to be mixing drugs and alcohol and then driving. Either or is bad. Combining, definitely worse. Like it said, 9 times more likely than a sober person. So taking risks. You are in the driver's seat, you're alone, driving on a straight stretch of highway. You're tempted to floor it. What choice will you make? So new drivers differ on how they manage the risk. You probably know drivers who are unsure about what actions to take and are nervous around other road users. These people lack confidence in their skills, and then there are the overconfident drivers, the ones who think they are much better drivers than they are. Both overconfident and those who lack confidence will need to learn more and take more time to practice their skills. A few people adopt a dangerous driving style, seeking out excitements through speeding and taking risks. These people are thrill seekers, and they usually enjoy speeding, tailgating, or passing unsafely. What kind of driving style do you plan to have? Do you want to stay within your skill level? Do you think that it is better to be cautious rather than take too many chances? Driving attitude or style is something that you choose. So yeah, as a new driver, definitely err on the safe side just because you don't have that experience, and it does take time to get that experience. So how often should you take risks? So for example, how often do you shoulder check? The answer is always. How often do you drive within the speed limit? Again, should always be always. How often do you signal? I still signal even in my parking garage. I think that it's always super handy, and if you do it all the time, it just becomes automatic. So again, always avoid drinking and driving, always, and leave good space margins, always, because these are always your own safety and also the safety of others. So strategies to identify your driving attitude or style. You want to ask someone you trust to give you feedback on your driving skills, driving attitude, and driving style. Sometimes this can hurt your feelings. So just driving on the safe side and then asking someone to give you feedback is definitely going to be a better feedback than perhaps being a lazy driver and then asking for feedback. It's going to feel more accusatory. But again, it's always good to know rather than to assume. So you also want to analyze your style and attitude. If you have a close call, ask yourself why it happened and think about how you can drive more safely so it doesn't happen again. So like I was saying, for example, when I'm driving and I see a pedestrian out of nowhere, or a car out of nowhere, I'm just going to quickly reflect and be like, was that my bad or was that their bad? What could have I done to be more aware of that and avoid possibly harming that person or myself? So we only learn through change, right? Be critical when you watch a car or a car chase scene in a movie. Ask yourself, what message am I getting? Do I agree with this message? Will this message affect my driving style or attitude? In the movies, it's always going to be very dramatic. Just remember that those are professionals doing those scenes, and they've usually practiced them before it's been allowed on the car ad or car chase. Definitely something you don't want to be trying at home. And then also, do you find yourself always blaming others for bad driving? If so, then ask yourself, is it really their fault or could it be me? So just being aware of your own driving skills and your own driving habits. If you do find yourself always yelling at other drivers, it could be something that you're doing as well that if you were to fix would help with your own stress levels. Crash fact: over 75% of all drivers traveling at an unsafe speed resulting in casualty collisions were male. So that's just because in our culture here, males typically are meant to be impulsive, and so then that can also cause showing off, I guess. Over 37% of persons killed in collisions were victims of collisions caused by unsafe speed. That's just because when you're driving fast, you can't see everything. So that's why you don't want to be going too fast, and that's why speed limits are there, right, is to prevent these crashes. You'll notice that those advised speeds around curves are quite low. That's usually because someone has crashed there, and that's the speed that they've deemed it safe to make those turns at. So you in the driver's seat. Oh, come on, join the party, have a drink, your friend says. You promised to be the driver at the party. You were going to stick to soft drinks, but then this is a new friend and you really like them. What choice would you make? So being confrontational is always usually the way to go. But like this says, this is a hard situation. If you're trying to make friends, that can always be difficult. If you really are being pressured by that friend, in the long run, is that really a friend that you want to have that's causing you to make poor decisions? Or if you're really wanting to avoid the confrontation, you could always make a drink. When they're not watching, switch out your drink. So just kind of choosing your battles and trying to make the right decisions. So it can be hard to resist peer pressure. We want to belong, so we're going to be sensitive to what others think of us. There's two kinds of peer pressures, positive and negative. Friends who persuade you to do the safe thing because they care about you are giving you positive peer pressure. On the other hand, friends or acquaintances who encourage you to do something dangerous are putting negative pressure on you. Learning to handle peer pressure takes a lot of practice. You want to keep your friends, but you don't want to get talked into doing things that put yourself or others in danger. So here's some strategies for handling negative peer pressure. Try using these 4 steps to help you resist negative peer pressure. Identify the problem. You may want to impress your new friend if you drink, but you aren't fulfilling your promise to stay sober and be the designated driver. You want to think about the consequences. If you choose to have a drink so that you don't upset your friend, you increase the risk of being involved in a crash when you get behind the wheel. You could even hurt or kill yourself or someone else. So you want to identify alternatives. Suggest to your friend that you'll have a drink with them another time when you don't have to drive, and you want to follow through. Stay sober when you're ready to leave. Offer your friends a ride. Unsafe passengers. You in the driver's seat. You're driving home at night with a load of passengers. They're all having a good time, telling jokes, fooling around. The light rain is making it hard to see, and there's a lot of reflection on the road. You need to concentrate, but you're finding it hard to think with all of the noise around you. What should you do? It can become quite overwhelming. I have been the DD before, and I think even it was raining, and it was a lot. So it kind of sucks telling people to be quiet, but if that's what you need for a safe driving environment, again, it's everybody's safety at risk, and you want to be the responsible one. So when you're driving, you're the one that's responsible for the safety of your passengers. Sometimes you will find passengers can be distracted. Children often become bored with long drives and demand attention from you. Passengers may start talking loudly, teasing, or wrestling in the car. This is the time when you will have to show leadership and maintain control. So, strategies for being a good passenger. As a passenger, you can help drivers by avoiding heated conversations or emotional conversations, as those can distract the driver. You also want to discourage reckless driving. So again, that's not being like, run the yellow, or different things like that can influence someone else's driving. You might be comfortable running that yellow, but possibly the person that's driving is not, right? So just being aware that you're the passenger and someone else is driving, and you want to be prepared to take a stand for safety. So strategies to keep your passengers safe. You want to refuse to move unless everyone is wearing a seatbelt. Always super important. Seat belts are definitely what save a lot of people if there is an accident or something goes wrong. So yeah, you can just be like, I don't drive the car unless everyone's wearing their seatbelt, and that's just an easy way to settle any debates. Children, you often have to belt them in anyway, so you're going to tell them the rules before you start the trip. For example, if you were going on a long road trip, you'd be like, okay, we're going to stop for a washroom break, in an hour, and we're going to stop for food in 2 hours. Then everybody kind of knows the plan. You can also give children activities if it's a long ride. Tell passengers you're not going to be able to talk very much because you need to concentrate on driving. Use humor with your friends. For example, tell them you're not smart enough to drive and joke around at the same time. Make sure any animals that you're transporting are secured in cages. A wandering, frightened animal is a dangerous distraction. One of my cousins actually flipped their Jeeps when I was younger because their dog jumped up and put their paws through the steering wheel, and they weren't able to get the dog out safely and turn the corner, and that ended up in just their Jeep flipping. So again, pets in the car don't seem super distracting, but there could be something that they see, they do, and you don't see at the same time, and that can cause issues as well. I don't actually think it's legal to have pets on your lap while driving as well. Unsafe drivers. You in this driver's seat. Your friend offers to drive you and your buddies to the next town. It's only 20 kilometers away, so you agree. He starts down the highway and is soon way over the speed limit. He rolls out to pass a car and barely has space to get back into the lane. You quickly notice that he is a very unsafe driver. What should you do? Everybody's had the experience of being stuck in a car with someone who's driving scares them. Having a license gives you much more power to deal with this situation because you know the rules and regulations and you know what safe driving means. But it isn't easy to persuade a safe driver to change their driving style. This is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. I have been in it a couple of times, and if it's a close friend, I usually say, I'm not comfortable with the way that you're driving. If you're not going to stop, either I can drive or I can get out and find my own way. Just because, if someone's driving this unsafe and you're in the car for them for like 20 kilometers, that's about a half an hour. And that's not something you want to be in the whole situation. So strategies for stopping unsafe driving situations. Here are some ideas that can help you handle unsafe drivers. So try using humor. So it depends on who you're working with here, if it's a friend, a family member, or just an acquaintance. But humor is always the less awkward way to take. You can use I statements to get across how you feel. For example, I'm feeling pretty nervous right now. Could you please slow down for me? Like I was saying, offer to take the wheel. Tell your friend that you'd really like a turn driving. Again, you could just be like, I haven't driven your car before. Do you mind if I drive? There's different ways you can go around it without offending that person. Or it's completely up to you, your style, how you communicate in general. If there are other passengers, try to get their help. Ask, how are you feeling right now? Chances are they are probably feeling the same way. Be firm, say something like, hey, slow down before you get us killed. If anything else fails, or if all else fails, ask to be let out of the car. So again, you have the say over your own life. If you're not feeling safe, that's something that you should be communicating. Aggression on the road, you in the driver's seat. It's late at night, you're driving in an unfamiliar neighborhood, a vehicle comes speeding up behind you, the driver starts flicking their high beams back and forth from high to low. What should you do? It's often a difficult situation, what to do when you're faced with drivers who are aggressive. Their lack of courtesy and bad driving habits can lead to crashes. Extreme agitation, aggression, or road rage is not common, but mild aggression can escalate if you're not careful. How could you respond? So when this happens, if someone comes up to me and starts doing this, I typically just pull to the side of the road or put on my hazard beams to let them know I'm not going to be going faster and they should just pass me. So some strategies that ICBC has here to handle other drivers' aggression. So when others are acting aggressively behind the wheel, you want to respond with good driving manners. So give that other person plenty of room and the right of way. Again, it's just for your own safety. It's going to calm down the situation rather than escalate it. So you don't want to return the aggression. You want to avoid eye contact, keep away from erratic drivers, and don't gesture back. I know it can feel threat or can feel annoying when people do this to you. You can be upset, but at the same time, it's not really worth having a fight over something that just happened. If you're in a situation where you feel threatened, you want to get help. So you want to drive to the police station or a location where there's plenty of people, for example, a shopping mall. You want to call police if you have a cell phone, or if you're traveling with someone else, get that person to call so you can focus on driving. Don't go home. Keep the doors locked and the windows closed, and sound the horn or attract attention to yourself if someone tries to get into your car. So I'm assuming that these tips are if something does escalate and you're not able to get away from that person. Again, don't pull over if that person is staying there. Like it says, drive to the police, drive to a public area, call the police. Don't go home. Sometimes people do follow you. And of course, don't open your windows or doors. You can yell through the window if they really want to talk to you. Sounding your horn, just getting out of that situation. Like I said, not worth causing an escalated scene just over someone coming up and tailgating you. It is annoying. You can talk to your friends later, but just give them the right of way and get out of the way. Road rage doesn't happen a lot. I will say as a male, you would get more return on your aggression than you would as a female. I noticed for myself, if I get into like a kind of a tat with someone, nothing usually comes of it. Whereas if I am with a partner or if it's just guys in the car, I have noticed that situation can escalate. So it's just not worth it. At the end of the day, how much does it really affect your life, right? So preventing aggression, how can you make sure that you do not increase the anger or frustration of other drivers? If you use your smart driving skills, allow plenty of space, and give others the right of way, you can help prevent situations that cause this aggression. So strategies to prevent aggression. You want to prevent other drivers from becoming frustrated or angry. Know the rules of the road and follow them. Typically, this is all you need to know. If you're following the rules and they are the ones that are in a hurry, that's on them, that's not on you. So definitely number one. You also want to keep a generous following distance, give the right of way, move over for merging traffic, signal your intentions, pull over and let other drivers go by if there's a line of vehicles behind you. If you're on the highway or like a 2-lane street and you notice that there's other drivers behind you and you're in the left lane, always move to the right lane. That's going to cause so much less aggression just because typically people are going to be upset if they're in a hurry and you're not. So if you have the option to go to the right lane, definitely go to the right lane. Keep your headlights on low beam unless you're in an unlit area. I know that for myself, I have difficulty seeing at night. So if someone's just driving around with their high beams on, that's definitely a trigger for myself, just because, it is difficult to see. And that is why you have your high beams on. So if you're going to be passing other vehicles, you want to turn off your high beams just so that you're not blinding those other drivers. You want to keep your car stereo turned down. That's just so you can hear people honking or possibly communicating with you. You don't want to block passing lanes. Don't take more than one parking spot. You'll see that on Facebook where people have those like great parking stickers that they'll put on people's cars when they do things like that. You don't want to use your horn unless it's really necessary. My partner absolutely hates when people honk the horn at him. So it just depends on different drivers, different triggers. So again, this is basically just don't trigger other drivers. Don't park in spaces reserved for people with disabilities if you don't have a disability sticker, and don't yell at other road users. So yeah, for example, if you park like this, of course people are going to be upset with you because you're taking up more than your space, you're not following the rules. So we're sharing the road, which means that we need to be considering other drivers. What messages are our actions giving to other drivers? So in BC, you can register to be a organ donor, and then that's just put on your license. Say if something was to happen to you, then your organs can be donated to another individual. Myself, I did register because, I mean, if I don't have the ability to live, then of course I want my organs to help someone else to live. But this is a personal decision. But right here, there's some extra information. So right now in BC, there's a very long list of people waiting for organs and tissue transplants. For some, the gift of an organ will not come in time, yet only about a quarter of people in BC are registered to be organ donors. Everyone has a potential to be an organ donor. There are no age limits. Organ donor registry. In the past, you could have a decal placed on your driver's license to show your intent to be an organ donor. Now I believe it is just like an online list. I myself am a healthcare worker, so typically if someone was to come in, we just call that number and we would find out if a person was an organ donor. So like it said, this registry is accessible 24 hours a day, and you can register on the ICBC website or by calling this number here, the 1-800-663-6189. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have any qualms against it religiously or culturally, then why not? And chapter 8 is next. Thank you.